Hello, everybody out there. Trivalent Understanding Noetics, Class 2. Do this. We've already given you some insights into you, Y-O-U, your own understanding, and we've talked about the frequencies that control your being, all three parts of your trivalency, your spirit, your mind, and your body. The lesson today is going to be about one of the tools of the Trivalent Understanding Noetics, Affirmations of the Wounded Soul. We started off by giving you insights into the preamble, which we're about to do right now. So everybody, put your head up at 45 degrees, take a deep breath in, let it out. Another deep breath in. Let out more than you took in. And the last cleansing breath in and out. Now visualize these images as you repeat after me. I will live in the light.
I will live in the light.
Warmed by truth and embraced by grace.
Warmed by truth and embraced by grace.
I will remain a defender of the symbols of life.
I will remain a defender of the symbols of life.
I will eliminate evil.
I will eliminate evil.
Evil is the shadow of lies.
Evil is the shadow of lies
that seeks to blot the illumination of the human spirit.
That seeks to block the illumination of the human spirit.
Evil cannot grow in my life.
Evil cannot grow in my life
unless it is cultivated by hate.
Unless it's cultivated by hate.
Watered by the clouds of guilt and shame.
Watered by the clouds of guilt and shame.
And fertilized by the fetid fowl.
And fertilized by the fetid fowl.
Failed fruits of fear.
Failed fruits of fear.
Such as envy.
Such as envy.
Greed.
Jealousy.
Fear of lack.
Fear of lack.
Fear of truth.
Fear of truth.
Fear of pain.
Fear of pain.
Fear of death.
Fear of death.
Or the worst fear of all.
Or the worst fear of all.
Fear of fear itself.
Fear of fear itself.
As I eliminate.
As I eliminate.
Fear. Guilt, shame. And hate. The light of my spirit will grow brighter and brighter.
The light of my spirit will grow brighter and brighter.
Unconsciously giving permission. For all around me. To do the same. Ashe. Okay. 3 things. Affirmations of the Wounded Soul are one of the first tools you will get, and it is probably one of the most important tools, since it eliminates the effects of fear, guilt, shame, and hate. And these are the 3 most important emotional frequencies that prevent your spirit, mind, and body from functioning at its most effective level. As we go through these affirmations, I will emphasize constantly that the words are not the most important thing. The most important part of the affirmation are the images that you visualize in your spirit. Your mind does not visualize, even though we have been searching as neuroscientists for something called an engram. That's supposed to be how you store pictures in your mind for about the last 35, 40 years. We have not been able to find them because they do not exist in your mind. These are pictures that are made by your spirit. One of the 3 aspects of your spirit: enabling, protecting, and visualizing. is one of the most important aspects of your spirit. And it's important that you visualize the images of the affirmations. The preamble gets you prepared to visualize the specific affirmations against hate, guilt, shame, and fear. Let's start off with hate. We reviewed last week that we gave you the affirmation, at least to the initial degree, for hate. We came up with a song called Stop the Hate. It had those images in it, and anybody who listens to the song, and we'll get into what that means, will have the uplifting and enabling benefits of these affirmations in their living. I will now go through the affirmations. I will eliminate hate. Hate is a flame that consumes my humanity and the humanity of anyone I direct hate at. Hate is the twisted lens that warps all reality. I will eliminate hate by practicing the habits of filial love. I almost said agape, that's another. Filial love is brotherly love. It's the love that exists when you realize that you're related to another through a permanent, unbreakable bond to a larger, stronger, more important group. Family, gang, culture, race, as a sample of humanity are an example of life itself. We are all related. Filial love is the emotional counter to hate. You got any brothers and sisters? Ever piss you off? I guarantee. You ever hate them? Not quite. Exactly. No matter how much they piss you off, hate doesn't come into the picture because why? Well, that's my brother, or that's my sister, or that's my aunt. They are part of a larger group of which you are a part of that is much more important than you or them. And it's that bond to the group that prevents you from hating. Every being, not just on this planet, in all existence, has a relationship to you, very much like family. Again, family, gang, culture, race. As a sample of humanity, every human being is a sample of humanity, and you share that family with them. You're all humans, are an example of life itself. We got some things that out in our yard we think are muskrats. They're about that big, and they've been digging right next to our garden. My wife has been trying to get me to eliminate them, and we have done various things to try to get them to move on. We could put down poisons or traps or things like that. I don't want to do that. Why? Because they're beings just like myself. Mm-hmm. So I don't hate them. I don't hate anything. That's a waste of emotional and spiritual energy. So what we did was put some stuff in their burrows to encourage them to get the hell out of them burrows and move on to someplace else. And I ain't going to tell you what we put in there because it's, real nasty. But I did that because of how we feel about all living things. We are all related to them. Filial love allows me to know that I am a part of all life. And again, knowing is emotional spiritual. It's something I feel. I feel a part of all life. Filial love allows me to understand. Again, this is now with your cerebral hemisphere. Understanding is about thinking. Knowing is about feeling. Filial love allows me to understand that all life is a part of me. Now, in the beginnings of this reality, there is something that most scientists state is called the Big Bang. And in the beginning of this reality, when the Big Bang happened, there was only one element, hydrogen. Every other element, oxygen, nickel, cadmium, iron, copper, every other element in this reality was created from hydrogen. And the only place where that can happen is in the fusion portion of a star. We got a big one we call our sun. That is the only place where all the other elements that make up this reality are made. We are all made up of stuff that was made in stars. And every other living thing is too. Filial love allows me to understand, to be able to think about the fact that all life is a part of me. The things that make me up are things that are a part of all life. Filial love allows me to correct the hollies. We'll get into that. And to suggest to them that even if he is heavy, he's still my brother. And normally the edutainment portion of the class starts right about now. Where's my harmonica? I can't find my harmonica. That's all right. If I don't have my harmonica, I don't need my harmonica, because the Hollies were a singing group. I know we did this before. We're going to do it again. And the Hollies came up with this great song called He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother. And my suggestion to them is, even if he is heavy, filial love tells me he is still my brother. And their song goes something like this. It's a long, long road for which there is no return. But while we're on the way to there, who knows where? But I know he won't weigh me down at all. He ain't a heavy. He's my brother. So on we go. His welfare is of my concern. No burden to bear is he. We'll get there. But I know he will not encumber me. Boom, 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 boom. He ain't a heavy. He's my brother. And a bridge. If I'm laden at all, I am laden with sadness that everyone's heart isn't filled with the gladness of love for one another. So on we go. For each day you love me sing. while we're on the way to there, why not share? Mm-mm. But I know he won't weigh me down at all. Mm-mm. He ain't heavy. Mm-mm. He's my brother. My harmonica. Wham, 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 wham. He's my brother. Mm-mm. He ain't heavy. Mm-mm. He's my brother. And then it goes off and vamps like that. That's the holly song. And we need to suggest to them, even if he does get heavy, filial love teaches us he's still my brother. Okay. Next affirmation. The affirmation against guilt and shame. Okay. Before I get into the affirmation, I got to give you a little insight into guilt and shame. Guilt and shame has been used by Europeans for centuries to control their people, especially their females. The primary tool has been provided by the Roman Catholic Church. And as every Roman Catholic knows, y'all guilty. Y'all should be ashamed. Y'all should just, because that's what Catholicism teaches you. That you're born in sin and you're a sinful being and you got every reason to feel guilty for stuff you have never even done, simply because you're a human being. And my God, you better hold that shame because only we can take it away from you and assure you a trip to heaven after you die. Imagine that. Okay. I will eliminate guilt and shame. But in order to get to the affirmation itself, we have to explain a little bit of psychology to you. A little bit of psychology. Back in the early 20th century, there was a guy by the name of Sigmund Freud, who I studied as a child. Siggy thought about the human mind as three different functional concepts. The id, where all of your instinctual impulses, food, warmth, water, comfort, companionship, were buried. Your ego, whose job it was to convince you that it was you. It's your self-concept. And your superego. Your superego was that portion of your mind where all your do's and don'ts were stored. You should always cross the corner. You should always wear clean drawers. You never know when you're going to have to go to the hospital. Those things were usually given to you as a child by an adult. That's why whenever you conceptualize things from your superego, they're always coming from someplace higher than you. Because that's the way it was when you got them. They were from an adult and you were a child. Now, his id, ego, and superego were somewhat transposed by something called transactional analysis. Started with a book back in the 80s called I'm Okay, You're Okay. The id, where your instincts were contained, was changed into something called the child for transactional analysis. Your ego was transferred into something called the adult. And your superego, it was renamed the parent. Appropriate. Okay. So we got Freudian, we got transactional analysis. Now we come to trivalency. in trivalency, your ego is considered to be I. So whenever I say I, I'm talking about my ego, that part of my mind whose job it is to convince me that it's me. Me is transferred, the superego is transferred into the word me. So when I say I listen to me, I'm saying my ego, my selfhood, listen to my parent, or those things that tell me what's right from wrong. Okay? And the affirmation against guilt and shame goes a little like this. I will eliminate guilt and shame. Guilt is the emotion I feel when I listen to me describe the wrong things I've done. Shame is the emotion I feel when I listen to me describe the wrong things I am. Guilt is something that you do. And when you listen to you describe wrong things that you've done, the emotion that you feel is called guilt. Shame is something that you are. When you listen to your superego or your parent describe wrong things that you are, the emotion that you feel is called shame. Okay? Guilt and shame are the twin shackles that bind my psychic energy, decreasing my available will and preventing manifestation of my spiritual gifts. We discussed earlier the fact that one of the things that the spirit does is serves as a template for the will. In that explanation, your psycho-spiritual being actually acts like a movie projector. Your spirit provides the images, and that is the film of the movie projector. Your will provides the light that shines through the image. And it is your faith that provides the lens on the front of the camera that focuses the image and projects it. This is the technique through which all of humanity has functioned. And everything that human beings have ever made, from the first stone tool to computers, was made by your spirit forming an image, that image being transferred to your mind to compare, consider, contrast, evaluate. And after your mind gets through working on that image, that information is now sent to your body. And your body now has the tools to create the image that your spirit came up with. Now, generally, your spirit comes up with images that are not in this reality. And that is why we kind of understand it is spirit, because that portion of your being is in contact with another reality that this one is not a part of. That's why we can create things here that have never been here before. Guilt and shame jacks up that whole process. Again, guilt and shame are the twin shackles that bind my psychic energy. Psychic energy is what you use to create images. Psychic energy is also what you use to transfer those images to your brain. They bind your psychic energy. Guilt and shame decreases your available will. And it is your will, again, that is the light that shines through the images created by your spirit so that your faith can project them into this reality. Guilt and shame prevents you from manifesting the spiritual powers and ability you have. Eventually, we're going to let you look at a statement made by Mandela when he was first inaugurated. Nelson Mandela, in his inaugural speech, said something to the effect of, "It is not our darkness that troubles us. It is our light. It is our power." We think, who are we to be great? Who are we to be magnificent? Who are we to reach beyond? When in actuality, who are we not to be? We are children of the Most High God. And being small and playing weak doesn't help us. Being less than you actually are to make others feel comfortable doesn't elevate them or you. Guilt and shame makes you feel not worthy. That is the result of guilt and shame. And a wise man once said, it doesn't matter if you think you can or you think you can't. Either way, you're correct. If you think you can, that mindset will free your will and your psychic energy to do. If you think you can't, that negativity will block that mindset that's necessary for you to achieve. And the major thing that says, I can't, is guilt and shame. Because it not only says, I can't, it says, I shouldn't. I bet not. Oh my God. Oh, what if I do? The affirmation continues. I will loose the shackles of guilt and shame with the twin keys of faith and grace. Now, what are those things? What's faith?
The substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
She remembers!
Hebrews 11:1.
Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Whenever you hope for something, whenever you wish for something, the thing that gives it substance in your spirit, in your mind, and brings it into this reality is faith. Faith is also the things of which functions or principles that have no physical embodiment or utilize. What does courage look like? Nobody knows. What does fear look like? Nobody knows. Though they can give you examples of what an individual under the influence of those things could do or could look like. Those are things that have no physical embodiment. And it's only faith that they exist that makes them exist for you. But that same faith can make anything happen. Faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Let's flip the script. Faith is also the substance of things not seen, the evidence of things hoped for. Everything in this reality is made up of atoms. Atoms are made up of electrons, neutrons, protons. Electrons, neutrons, and protons are made up of smaller particles, the smallest elemental particle we've been able to identify, called quarks. The first guy who thought about quarks, wanted to visualize quarks and characterize quarks, thought, okay, quarks, the smallest elementary particle of this reality, they spin 180 degrees clockwise. And he got his atom smasher out and smashed some atoms and produced some quarks and examined them. And would you believe they spun 180 degrees clockwise, just like he thought. So he wrote it all up, published it in lots of journals, and people read it, and one guy read it and said, nah, I don't believe this. I believe they spin 160 degrees counterclockwise. So he took his atom smasher, smashed up an atom, produced some quarks, measured those quarks, and would you believe it? They spun 160 degrees counterclockwise. To make this long story very short, lots of other people did very similar experiments, and they found that quarks do whatever you think they should do. If you think they should bounce up and down, there's a quark that just bounces right up and down. If you think it should do like this and then do like this, there's a quark that does just that. The smallest element of all matter in this reality responds to what you think. It responds to your faith. So it is the substance of things not seen. Can't see quarks. Much too small. Can't even see the atoms they're made of. But they respond to your faith. Faith is the substance of things not seen, the evidence of things hoped for. We got a baseball team here in Cleveland called the Cleveland Indians. They play over at a place called the Q. No, that's a basketball team. It used to be the J. Progressive Field. Now it's Progressive Field. Sponsorship change, the name change. If I made a bet with a guy or a girl that those Indians would win more games than they lose at that Progressive Field, would that be a good bet? Maybe. Okay. That's a good answer. That's always a correct answer. But my answer is yes, certainly. That's a good bet. And it's a good bet regardless of what the team is or where they play at, as long as they play in their home arena. Why is that? Well, if you ask the players, and it doesn't make any difference if it's baseball or basketball or hockey or tennis, it doesn't make any difference. You ask the players, Jimbo, you scored 68 points and pulled down 107 rebounds. How did you do it? And Jimbo will tell you, well, it was a crowd. The crowd really got behind us and they powered us on and they just wouldn't let us lose. When you go into an arena where a team is playing, as soon as you enter the building, you feel this energy. Everybody feels it. And as the team goes on, it gets more and more, this energy, this force. What is that force? That force is the spiritual faith of the crowd that their team is going to find some way to win.